Good morning, class. I am Obijum Calson, and I will be your physics teacher in the course of this lesson. Here is a brief presentation of our plan of work. Okay, today we're going to work on something really interesting, but before we begin, we're going to divide the class into 4 groups of 5 students each. Each group should rapidly elect a group leader that is going to record your discussions and interactions. And at the end of each activity, we're going to present our findings and discuss more about them. So please turn around and join your table to form your groups according to your seating positions. On each table, I'm going to distribute a set of pictures and we are going to discuss on them following some activities. So here we have a set of pictures, some common tools we use in our daily encounters. So study them briefly. Take about 2 minutes to observe them. Now let's now go to the first activity of the day. Members of each group should discuss and identify the tools for the different pictures. What is each tool used for? So you're going to take about 5 minutes to do that activity, and at the end, your group leader is going to come in front of the class and present your discussions. It's time up. Let the group leaders come ahead and present your findings. We are going to have a feedback on what you have done collectively. Now we'll move on to the second activity where we have to list a certain number of tools used by different professionals in practicing their jobs. So list as many tools as you can, as many. You have about 5 minutes for that. Okay, it's time up. Let's move on to the next activity. On activity 3 is linked to activity 2. How do the instrument listed help them in doing their job? What are some things or characteristics common among all the tools listed or identified in activity 1 and 2? So what are collective words that can be used to name all the tools in activity 1 and 2? So you have about 5 minutes to do that activity. Okay, it's time up. Let the group leaders come ahead and present your findings and let us discuss and do the necessary corrections. Okay, activity 4 represents a truck containing some barrels of red wine. So here we have to devise a simple method that the truck driver can use to upload the barrels from the truck. So you take about 3 minutes to reflect on that. You can even draw a small sketch if you want. So try and think individually for that exercise. Okay, let's move now to the correction of activity 4. We see that it is easy for the truck driver to place a ram at one end of the truck laying on the ground. He can easily roll the barrel from the truck to the ground with less effort. Okay, we continue with the next part of our lesson. And we saw that the collective name that we use to call all the tools or instruments that we listed in activity 1 and 2 were called machines. And what are machines? We discussed and saw that machines are any tools or devices that help us to do work with less efforts. And here we're interested in a special class of machines called simple machines. And we have 6 types. We have screw, inclined planes, wedges, levers, wheel and axle, and pulley systems. And all these simple machines have some characteristics in common. As we discussed previously, we saw that most of those machines don't use any external source of energy. They don't use fuel or electricity. For example, we saw that a spanner could be used in tightening a knot. For example, without any external source of energy, we could use our hands to do that. We also saw that a knife used by a chef could be used to cut a loaf of bread, for example, with less effort. We also saw that a fishing rod could be used by a fisherman to catch fish. It's also an example of a machine. Now we'll move now to the last part of our lesson. So here you have an assignment. So we are going to group all the instruments or tools we identify in class into these categories of simple machines. We have levers, we have inclined planes, we have pulley system and screw. This is going to help us to introduce our next lesson on our next class. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the best as you do your assignment.